Welcome back. I'm 755. It's 755 is real, and I'm David O'Brien, and I'm with my co-host Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. I'm with the Athletic, of course. And Eric, we got a lot of stuff to report on lately that's been good.
Yes.
Funny how a lot of the Twitter comments have changed dramatically and also lessened. There's the sheer volume of Twitter comments goes down a great degree when the Braves are doing so many things right. Funny how that works.
8 in a row, right? I mean, that'll do it.
8 in a row, and it's not just that they're beating up on some teams they should beat up on, which you've got to do. You play the schedule, you hear these people. You hear some people that are just misanthropic and just want to be miserable that say, yeah, do it when they have to. They play the schedule, man. All the teams in the division are going to play the same schedule as far as division opponents. The Mets people were saying, the Mets have been playing the Padres and the Dodgers. Well, the Braves already played the Padres and the Dodgers, and they did better against the Padres, I think, against those two teams together, I think, than the Mets did. But anyway, it's the important thing for the Braves is they've cut this lead down, which was getting to be a little unwieldy when it got in double digits.
Yeah.
They've gone from 10.5 games to 6.5 since this run started, which they have not lost in June yet. They're 8-0 in June.
If you take a 5-game lead into September, you're not comfortable.
Right.
So to cut it to 6.5 now, I mean, there's
now
like we said,
very
you
doable.
can get in this. Yeah, 10
very
is
doable. Very doable when you've brought it from 10.5 to 6.5. It doesn't even seem big anymore. When it was all at 0 and the Mets build a 6.5 game lead, it seems like a lot. But now you've almost cut it in half in 8 days, 8 games.
Yeah.
So, we talked about the team meeting. I wrote about it today, and I thought it was pretty fascinating to talk to some people about how SNIT operates and all that. It's all in the story I wrote today. But, the stuff that we've talked about at length about SNIT was reiterated with everybody I talked to yesterday, be it from Travis d'Arnaud to Guillermo Heredia to Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall. These people all talked about what a stabilizing influence it is. And as d'Arnaud said, I can't even put into words really for people outside to understand how important it is to have SNIT, how vital it's been to have SNIT these last couple of years, to go through the last year, through the first, not getting over 500 until August, to have a manager who never panicked, you never look down and see him shaking his head or frustrated during the games and all that. And to get through this first part wasn't even that difficult for them because of SNIT. And, he calls a team meeting, but he's not yelling and all that. He just says, guys, let's get together. I want to say some things. And he reminded them who they are. He said, it's not that we're not playing hard. We're playing hard. We can just play better. We got to clean it up, and it's time to do it. We're the Atlanta Braves. Let's just play like it. Let's play like what we can do. And the message got through to them, obviously.
Yeah. Those sometimes it's just kind of a refocusing, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, that's the word they used.
Just a refocus. Everything gets amplified early in the season. Your personal struggles. A lot of times you're trying to get your numbers set and trying to put yourself in a position to have a good year, and you need to refocus that, it's a team thing. And I'm not saying anybody was doing that, but there's always just so much going on early in the year, so many things to get distracted by, so many things you're trying to establish, and just SNIT kind of coming in and saying, hey guys, it's time to lock in and start playing good baseball. And I think he picked the perfect time for it, just from the fact of those 2 games they lost are games they should have won.
Yeah.
And if they were playing, I guarantee you, if they just got beat those 2 days, or just, you don't hit and it happens. You pitch like shit and it happens. There's times where guys just aren't performing, but they're trying their ass off. And that's not the time to have a team meeting and tell guys you have to be better players, because they already know that and they're already trying their ass off. But when you play sloppy baseball, that's the perfect time to just tell everybody to rein it in and like, this is not us. We got to focus. So I think he timed it pretty well. And also I think it's, if I was a manager, I'd probably time it too against that weakest part of the schedule, because it makes it easier for everybody to pull together and you got a better chance to beat these teams. But as far as that goes, this is what you're supposed to do. You can't discredit a team for beating the teams they're supposed to beat. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And then against the really good teams, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, like you battle, and you're not going to go 8-0 against those teams. But when you play these really bad ones, that's when you have to rack up wins. So you can't discredit a team for that, because that's what they're supposed to do, and that's what you have to do to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time, you know, they were 0-2 against the Diamondbacks. They were coming out for an afternoon game, easy to go out, drag an ass, and I think he could see getting swept in Arizona and then having to go to Colorado, and you know you're already at 10.5 games down. And I think he could see it being, you know, this looming. They were getting thrown out on the bases, trying, you know, being overly aggressive. They were making mistakes in the field, just doing some sloppy stuff, not executing pitches, you know. And like you said, a lot of the players said that they just need reminders sometimes of, hey, let's refocus, do what we've learned, what we know we can do, what we're capable of doing, and realize we got a lot of baseball left, and now's the time to get going. And to a man, that's what they said, that was great to be reminded, to just to get them refocused and all on the same page again. And because like Dansby was saying, it's so important in a long season like this that you can get in a rut and not even realize you're in it. When you do the same thing every day, you just play every day. You come, you play, you come, you play. You don't have, you know, so many off days to go over stuff and everything. You're just playing every day. He said sometimes it's to have your guy. And he says the manager, he goes, there's no skirting it. Dansby said the manager is your leader, you know, whether you have a team leader or whatever, the manager is still the leader. The team takes his personality. The team has his personality, and that's to not panic, to be patient. And that has really gotten through this last couple of years, all the diversity they faced. And he said for Snit to stand in front of them, they realized, you know, he got their attention just calling a team meeting, and then just to remind them of the basic things, the fundamentals, to play like they can play. And he said they all said it's worked, because we've played since then. We've played entirely different. You know, they've played focused, good, clean baseball.
Yeah, and the message of, you know, we're better than this, and remember how good you are, versus just yelling and screaming. You know, because you can have a team meeting that puts more pressure on the guys or takes pressure off. You know, and his tone, I'm sure, was just like, guys, we're better than this. It's time to lock it in and play good baseball and do what we do and be who we are, versus you motherfucker, you guys are playing like this. And you can put more pressure on the team with that situation, where now they're playing tense. Like if we lose, it's a big deal, versus no, we're just supposed to win, and that's what we're going to go do. And that, you know, baseball's a weird sport, but it's such a mental game, and it's so much about the vibe and the energy, that little things like this can make a difference. And you can't play this card 10 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, you have to pick your spots.
Yeah. Walt Weiss. I really like Walt Weiss, man. Former
Seems
All-Star
like everybody
shortstop.
does.
Yeah. Tough guy, tough dude, but a good dude that all the players respect. You know, he can be not bad cop, but he can be the hard ass, but he's a good dude. But he says he's learned so much from Snit since Walt managed in Colorado. Had a really bad situation there. Took over the team after they'd had the worst season in franchise history. They didn't have many good players. Managed there 4 years. Had knocked heads with a really bad general manager there, and basically, you know, forced to resign. Came over here, has been bench coach, and he said he's learned so much watching Snit's even keel and his patience, and the way that Snit is able to turn the page every night. He said, I couldn't do that. He goes, and I'm trying. He goes, I'm trying to learn that. I don't know if I'm good at it yet, but Snit, he goes, I really wore every loss. I'd go home, I couldn't sleep. He said, Snit is incredible how Snit, at the end of the night, when he leaves there, you can't tell whether they won or lost.
Yeah, that's so important.
And he said, that's what I'm trying to learn watching Snit, is how you've got to be able to wash it off and go home and come back and start over again. And that's what Snit teaches, is all you can do is win today. You can't do anything about what happened yesterday. You can't, he goes, tomorrow is 100 years away. Win today, play your best today. And Walt said that's the message that got through. He said when Snit came in that Wednesday morning in Phoenix, he said, Snit and I talked about it before. the day he was going to do it. He said, he told me he couldn't sleep the night before and he had some things on his mind. And he said, and I just said, you know what, Snit, all of us need reminders from time to time. We need to be reminded of what we're supposed to be doing or going about it the right way. We all need those reminders. I don't care who you are. And that's all that meeting was. He goes, and shit, I don't think we've lost sense, have we? That's what Walt said. And that's basically, that's exactly what Dansby said in a totally separate conversation I had with him yesterday, is that, it doesn't matter who you are. You need to be reminded sometimes because you get in this rut, and that's and Snit's meeting did exactly that with everybody. Dansby was talked too about how Snit has been such a great fit for this team because, we've talked about the team that they've assembled. It's a bunch of professional guys who go about their work the right way and all that. So they don't take advantage of the type of manager that Snit is. Like Bobby Cox was similar. He had a clubhouse that he let police itself, and they had guys who did that and didn't take advantage of it.
Yep.
Well, Snit does that, and Dansby said, he lets us. He goes, he's him. Snit is who he is, and he lets us be who we are. And he said, and for the type of team it is, it's perfect. He goes, and there's a lot of little things like Dansby mentioned, stuff that people don't see. Like every day, and I didn't even know this, that every day is optional BP at home for the Braves. Every day.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yep. And he said that means that, they can't just do whatever they want. They let them know. But like Dansby said, if some guy's got something going on at home, or if he's banged up, nicked up, doesn't think he can, he wants to hit that day, he goes, as long as you're ready at 7:20 to play the game, that's what matters. And that's what Snit stresses. So if a guy needs to take off that day, get treatment instead, just do it. Don't even just do it. Go to the training room. And Snit says, like when Mallory, his fiance, when she's in town, because she's a professional soccer player, when she's in town, if I need to stay at the house a little longer so I can spend some time with her, have lunch or whatever, do it. Skip BP that day. Be ready to play at 7:20. And Snit lets these guys do that, and they don't take advantage of it because of the type of team they have.
And you have to have the right group to do that, because a lot of guys would just show up hungover, and it's easy if you don't have the right core group of guys for something like that to get carried away. But for me,
and that's why Alex and Snit have worked so good hand in hand, because Alex has valued that so much, put so much stress on that. Yeah,
you have to have a good GM watching that, because there's a lot of GMs that would see that and be like, why isn't this guy out here? Why isn't that guy out here? Are you not trying, or why are you being so easy on this? And at the same time, there's managers that when they start struggling, they start doing more. You lose 2 in a row, you got early work, and you probably lost 2 in a row coming off a tough trip, or the guys are worn down already, and they want to push them harder to show the GM, they're worried about their job. I'm down here working. Look, I got the whole, we made an error yesterday. You make 2 errors. We got the whole infield taken infield at 2:00, and the guys are just sitting there like, what the hell are we doing? It's June 45th, and we're taking, our extra BP, extra rounds. We're doing eye wash is what everybody calls it, because it's work you do for it to be seen, not necessarily to get better. And what would be better for those guys that day is just, take it easy, hit in the cage, lock in tonight when the game starts. And I don't know if that's something you can teach, but Snit definitely learned a lot from Bobby, just watching him. You just absorb those things, and seeing how successful Bobby was running a clubhouse like that.
It's kind of like Bobby had, that team was built around the starting pitchers, and he let those guys, and the reason those guys stayed with the Braves so long, took less money to stay with the Braves. It was a time with different free agency, obviously, but they stayed with the Braves because they loved the fact that Bobby treated them so well and let them do their thing as long as they were ready and kept producing. Bobby didn't just let them play golf. He urged them to go play golf with each other because he knew how important it was to them, and it was their relaxation method. So those guys would be out playing golf every day when they weren't starting, on their days when they weren't starting, they'd be playing golf on the road like every day, just about. Courses all over the country. So, and Snit, that's the way he does this, is with the guy at home. He understands that, how hot it is here, summer comes here, and how much BP can take out of guys. And it's also important to note that none of them take advantage of it, because the Braves, most of the guys are out there taking BP every day. A lot of them are out there taking early BP before regular BP. So it's not like they're, hanging out and lounging in the clubhouse, instead of hitting if they should be hitting. A lot of them skip it and go hit in the cage instead if they want to work one-on-one with sights, or if they just want to go work on something by themselves in the cage, do it. So he just gives them a lot of he trusts them to be professionals, and they respond accordingly. And I think they really respect him more. So when he does have something to say, when he does want a team meeting, they understand it's important because he doesn't do it all the time. They don't just roll their eyes and, look at their phones while he's talking and all that stuff. They're like sitting there and rapt attention, listen to what he's saying, and it drives home a point without having to scream.
Yeah, you have to have those, I wouldn't call them silent leaders, but just guys that, when you piss them off, there was always guys on the team that when they spoke up, all right, we messed up. Like Nick Markakis, if he comes over and says something to you, with 100% certainty you're wrong. Because if you piss this guy off, you're really out of line. But you have to have those leaders that are always doing everything right, always have a good attitude, even keel. And when you cross the line with them, like, it's a wake-up call. Like, all right, I got to get my things together. Because if you have the guys that are just, I've played for managers that are just always looking around at what everybody's doing for something to criticize. And what happens is when he's criticizing somebody or pissed off at them, you're like, well, you were looking for it. Of course you can find something every day to pick at. But when you have guys that are trusting you and letting you go do your work and believing in you, and you still piss them off, there's no doubt that you're the one out of line and you're wrong.
Yeah. Adam Duvall, who really has, this is huge for the Braves, that it looks like he's finally, out of this long funk that he was in. Because since Saturday in Colorado, he made an adjustment with his posture. He's more upright. He's able to see the ball better and make a move on it better, as he said. But he was talking about how much better they've played since that team meeting. He said, we definitely didn't feel like we were playing up to the standards we hold for ourselves. For whatever reason, we couldn't get on that roll. It's good sometimes to bring everybody together and make sure we're all on the same page, and just to kind of refocus a little bit, make sure that the number one goal at the end of the day is to win the game. Right now, everybody's pulling on the same side of the rope. We're playing good team baseball and fundamental baseball.
They are.
Guillermo Heredia said, I asked him, how much does it help to have a manager during the times like you guys just went through, where you're struggling to get to 500 and you can't get on that roll. You can't even win more than 2 in a row. How much does it help to have a manager like that? And last year, when they didn't get over 500 till August, he said, I think it helps a lot. This is Heredia. He said, it helps the players remain calm and relaxed. It doesn't project that tension onto the playing field. It helps players remain calm and relaxed, like I said, and to wait, knowing that the good moments will come. Yeah. That's another thing Snit teaches all the time. And the quote from Snit to that point is, you have to weather storms. You get in streaks over the course of 6 months where there's nothing you can do. You just got to wear it. And if you do, there's usually something good on the other side of it. You have to prepare and take every day as a separate entity and handle it, because there's nothing you can do about it. Hopefully you get out of it sooner than later.
Yeah. I was actually talking to my wife about that last night, because we were talking about just how, you take it into real life too, but just how numb you have to train yourself to be. I'd come home in the off season and she'd be like, do you have any emotion? I feel like you're just dead inside. And I'd be like, I've been training myself to feel nothing for 6 months straight, for the entire season, whether it's high or low, whatever happens. You give up 5 runs yesterday or you strike out the side today. You're training yourself to be even keel. And that's what we called it. You never ride the roller coaster. So then I get into situations, you're on Thanksgiving or something and everybody's having this big fight or whatever it is. You get into real life situations and you're around people that aren't training themselves to control their emotions. And you're just sitting there.
Life.
They're just in the daily grind of regular life. They're pissed at their boss or whatever it is. And you can just see people unable to control their emotions throughout a day. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there with this blank stare on my face, because you're so good. That's the most important thing throughout a major league season, those 162. If you get high when you're high and then crash when you're down, it is such a mental grind and it takes so much energy out of you. So she was saying, like, I would be around you and somebody cut you off in traffic. And she's like, my brother-in-law, somebody I know, would just be screaming at a car if it happened. You just this blank stare on your face. You're not even phased. And it's kind of like that's how you have to train yourself to get through all the ups and downs of a major league season. And so when you have a manager that's able to do that, this is the one I bring up all the time, is you pitch bad the night before and you walk by your manager in the hallway. 70-80% of managers, they might still say hi to you, but you can feel this, like, you're the guy that cost me the game last night. Like, you can feel that energy. And when you walk by a manager and he genuinely looks like he doesn't even remember what you did yesterday, he says hi to you like he said hi to you day 2 of spring training. What's up, Bo? You know, like Bobby always did. Way to go. You walk by, and
that's what Snit is too. Yeah,
and
Snit's the same way.
But it's so important because there's that kind of tips the scale. You know, that can send you and remind you into that place of, oh yeah, I did screw up the game yesterday. Or it can be, oh, yesterday's gone. And when you walk by your manager and he just pats on the ass and says, way to go, for no reason, you're like, I guess he's not worried about yesterday. I'm not going to worry about it either. But when you have one of those managers that you can just feel, you know, they're changing the bullpen roles every time, or the bullpen phone's ringing in the 3rd inning because this guy had a bad start last time and it's a new guy, or I pitched bad yesterday in the 7th. Now I'm warming up in the 3rd today. It take you with them on that roller coaster, and it's really hard as a player not to ride it too. That's why it's so important to have a stable force, you know, at the helm.
Yeah. Guillermo said about that meeting, Heredia said he was the same way at the meeting that he is in the dugout, just more of a conversation, more of a reminder. He reminded us that we were world champions last year, and we didn't just get there because we wanted it. Everyone worked hard and we put in the work. That's how we got there. So he reminded us to keep going, and now you're kind of seeing the results of that. So, last night, Max Fried, kind of like we talked about the other day with Charlie, had that terrible first inning. Max didn't have a terrible inning, but he had a lot more traffic last night than he normally does. And then you look at it at the end of the day, and it's another Max Fried start. He gives up 1 run again, goes 6 innings, lowers, you know, he's 6-0 in his last 10 starts. His ERA is around 2.5, 5.4, I think now. What is it? I mean, that's what he is now, where he gives up 3 hits in an inning and no runs because he picks off the first guy, who I don't know if the guy had not watched film or not, but he did not. Obviously, he gets that leadoff single last night to start the game. Takes this big lead against Max. I'm like, are you kidding me? Max threw him out. Like, Max just kind of threw him out. Like, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Max has more pickoffs than anybody in the majors since he debuted in 17. Yeah. But this guy acted like he was a right-hander without a good pickoff move. He just threw him out. It was like not even close.
Yeah, and that's another team thing too, is you got your guys communicating that this guy has a great move, and maybe it wasn't communicated to him, but I don't know how you could get – it's not like Max is new. Yeah. He's been picking people off for a while, but that stuff happens, you know, especially on teams that are – I don't know what the Pirates are doing.
Yeah. So they got 3 hits in the first inning and didn't score. The only run they scored was on a home run. They had 8 hits in 6 innings against him, and the only hit that produced a run was the home run. So no walks again, which is huge for him. I thought he didn't even have his great stuff last night, and he still was able to do that. I think that just kind of separates the really good pitchers from the great ones. And Max he's an ace now, man. He's an ace, bona fide ace.
I think for him, you know, is 2019, 2020, I was still – I wouldn't say I was on the fence about him, but I didn't know I wouldn't want to coin him an ace.
Right.
You knew he had the stuff, but he still kind of had his ups and downs. He kept having blisters and things like that.
Right.
Maybe a start like today might get away from him. The last year and now this year, it's hard not to call him an ace because he have a start like yesterday where he's kind of battling a little early on, and then once he settles in, and that's what an ace is the guys that you can't let them get comfortable. Yeah. And once Max gets comfortable, good luck.
It's really been since, you know, the All-Star break or just before last year, because last year he had the hamstring early and he had the blister early, 2 DL stints. And then since the All-Star break, he's been as good as any pitcher in the major leagues, if not better. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And the consistency that is there now where he goes 6, 7, 8 innings every time out.
Every time.
And he's the guy you can turn to now. And if you've lost a couple of games, you know that he's going to stop it. If you're winning, you know he's going to continue it. And it's just who he is. And that was impressive. And then the bullpen comes in. And I can't say enough about these guys, man. They lost Luke Jackson before the season started.
Yeah.
Lost Tyler Matzik, who was their best reliever last year. They lost him, you know, a few weeks ago. You know, he'll probably be out at least another couple of weeks. He's going to have to do an IL stand. He's throwing again, but he's going to need an IL stand.
Yeah.
And then Colin McHugh, the last few days, has been out with the COVID. And they keep going out and do like they did last night. 3 perfect innings.
Yeah.
they got the best bullpen ERA in the majors now.
Yeah, and you don't even feel like they're rolling yet.
Right.
I think Mentor. I mean, obviously Mentor's been huge, but he's finally, for me, he's that guy that you knew he could be, and he's taken it. Even this year, he's taken it to another level.
I'm looking at Max's numbers: 6-2, 2.64 ERA. He had, I think, like one start where he gave up some. The big ones is 75 innings, 12 starts, 69 strikeouts, 12 walks.
Yeah,
that'll work.
That works.
That's more than 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I mean,
that plays.
That's outstanding. The WHIP is, what is the WHIP ranks him? He's basically top 20 in the majors in everything. WHIP's 1.04. He's just doing it. So if you add him, and then with Kyle Wright turning into what he's doing, now you got, they've more than picked up the slack with Charlie, showing his age a little bit this year. And then Ian Anderson pitching like a real solid middle of the rotation guy. It's a pretty good rotation, man. If you get Soroka for down the stretch, that's a big if. But if you do, or if the kid Strider keeps improving, it's a really good rotation that's even deeper than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, they're going to have those tough but good decisions to make. If Soroka comes back and he's looking like himself, Strider's throwing the ball well, you're going to have a nice full rotation.
Man, I'm looking at that in the top 20 in the majors right now. You're Wright and Max are right there together. Wright is 6-3 with a 2.39 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP, 192 opponent's average. I mean, his numbers are even better than Max's, overall. 73 strikeouts, 23 walks for Wright. Those two guys are getting it done, man. Jesus. So the ERA is about 2.5 between the two of them with a 12-5 record. And you're talking about 142 strikeouts and 35 walks.
Yeah, you're winning those games.
Yeah. So that's as good a 1-2 combination as anybody in the majors, really. I know the Yankees have. Cortez has been really great with Montgomery's been pretty good for them. And then obviously
Cole,
Garrett Cole, but Cole's, had a couple of bad starts too. So his numbers aren't as good overall as Max Fried and Wright. So I'd take that combo. I'm trying to think if anybody else has got a better combo 1-2. I'd take them over of anybody 1-2.
Yeah.
The Miami guys, Lopez and Alcantara have been tremendous. That would be it's funny that you got to go in the division for the best 1-2 combos in baseball, arguably right now. Unless I'm leaving somebody out, those guys have been the best, I think.
If the Mets get Scherzer and DeGrom healthy, I mean
obviously
that's another tier, but they're not healthy right now.
Talon, that's the other guy with the Yankees. I think that's how you pronounce his name, right? Talon. He's been great. 11 starts, 6.12, 7.3. So
even getting past those two, you have Ian too. And he's not, he could be an ace at some point or the top of the rotation, but even just having him where he's at and pitching the way he is, just solid starters. Like each solid starter you get, when you get to those teams that have a number 5 that's just a loss, that you're going to have to battle with. That's where you really struggle, because you're just giving away a game every 5 days. But they don't really have that hole either. I mean, I know Strider's last one wasn't great, but I don't give that any credit being in Colorado. I'm interested in this next one.
Absolutely. So and one before that. By the way, did you know they didn't make an announcement, but 2 of the earned runs that he got in that start in Arizona were removed. They made a scoring change, where they should have.
That was the double play, right? They gave Olsen an error on that double play ball.
Yeah, they took 2 of his earned runs off, so that was good. Looking at it in the National League, Wright and Fried now ranked 5th and 7th in ERA in the National League.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah, I mean, they're pitching even better than the Milwaukee duo,
that's the other one that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, and the Cardinals got a couple of guys pitching really well, but not quite with the Braves level, but with Wainwright and Dakota Hudson. But and they're getting. Nicholas has been really good, but not as good as those two guys with the brace. But looking at what a couple of these dudes have done recently, Duvall, I mean, that slump was getting really long with Adam. Right. Yeah. Right. He was down to hitting 186 with a 517 OPS on June 3rd after two games in Colorado. In the 4 games since then, I know it's just 4 games, but he is 7 for 16, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 5 ribbies, 1,063 slugging percentage. Slugging percentage.
The thing about him was he had so many big hits. You know, like he's an RBI guy, and when it seems like he was coming up in a lot of important at bats, and when you're going as bad as he's going, you can have all the guts in the world. You know, like when you're just lost at the dish and missing pitches and chasing, you know, he just looked lost at the plate. And now when he gets out, his at bats, they're not looking the same. You know, he's hitting the ball hard a lot more. But he's going to be a big piece, especially if he can get going. And it seems like as soon as he got going, the whole offense has been raking too.
Yeah, it's a different lineup. He had so much depth. And then what Michael Harris has done, after those first 3 games, he's added a whole lot to the offense on top of playing spectacular defense. He finally missed a ball last night on one of those Andrew Jones coming in catches. Yeah, very difficult when he finally missed one. I was like, whoa, you get already so used to him making those that when he doesn't, it's like, okay, he is human. But I thought another thing that kind of got overlooked last night was because it didn't amount to an out because the guy didn't test
that throw.
Acuña's arm. How about that throw though, man? Wow, you don't see many guys throw it like that anymore in the outfield.
He has one of the best arms. I mean, just from what I've seen, I've never seen him throw in person, but when he threw that ball in Arizona and BP, 370 with no crow hop. I mean, there's probably a handful of guys in the game that can throw a ball that far with or without a crow hop. But yesterday, I mean, I wish people would test him, and he's begging them to test him, but I think most of the league knows by now it's not a good move.
It was interesting because I was talking to Snit the other day. We were talking a couple other guys about we were naming guys with great outfield arms from the past, and we're like, you don't see it much anymore because guys don't work on it anymore. Guys used to go out there and make those throws, and they don't do it anymore. Snit said they don't take the time to do it. They want to get in there and hit home runs and batting practice, and they don't get out there and practice throws and make long throws, like the guys used to. So, but you don't see them much in the games anymore. Those
like a Jose Guillen and Vlad Guerrero type arm. That's what Acuña has.
Yeah, back in the day, man. I'm going further back. You go back to Dave Parker and guys like that. Bo Jackson.
Clemente.
Boy, yeah. I mean, Harold Baines. You don't see those guys throwing it from the warning track or just in front of it in the air to the base anymore.
Yeah,
and Acuña did it last night. He got it in the air from way deep. Yeah,
and it's controlled. It's not like he sprinted and then just air mailed it. He takes one step and lets it eat, and it's on target.
Harris's last 9 games at the plate, he is because he started 1 for 9 when he was a little antsy at the plate. Obviously, his last 9 at the plate, he is hitting 314, 11 for 35, 4 doubles, a triple. Missed a homer in Arizona that would have been a home run in like 24 ballparks was the figure. 5 ribbies, 5 runs. He's got an 819 OPS now in that 9-game stretch. So, I mean, kid's doing everything you want him to do.
I mean,
yeah. And now Acuña's looking like Acuña again offensively. So, offense, all of a sudden, all the questions that you had, now they just disappeared overnight, it seems like, I mean, you still got a couple of guys that aren't hitting much, but Riley's raking. Dansby's still raking. He has been for some time now. You're getting big 2-out hits, which you were not getting at all early. You weren't getting any hits with runners in scoring position early. It seemed like in a lot of those games. Now you're getting a lot of 2-out hits with runners in scoring position. You got 2 of them last night, 2 run scoring hits out of the 3 runs. 2 of them came with on 2-out hits.
Yeah, and those things are, I mean, it's easy to point out and pick at and wonder why, but sometimes stuff just happens in baseball that doesn't make any sense. Why are they not getting hits with runners in scoring position? We try to figure it out, and then nothing changes, and all of a sudden they're getting hits with runners in scoring position and winning games. You know, that's why it's so important not to ride the highs and lows. There's a ton of luck in baseball. It'll drive you crazy if you try to come up with an answer for everything happening.
One other quote. Cam, did we need to do any ads today?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in right before we wrapped up. I'll just go ahead and knock it out real fast. It'll just take real quick 30 seconds. I know we need to get going. Real quick, folks, Father's Day, less than a week and a half away. Make sure you check out Omaha Steaks and the Dads Want Steaks package. You can order from 16 delectable entrees, bacon wrapped filet mignons, gourmet jumbo franks, air chilled boneless chicken, and also for the dads with the sweet tooth, caramel apple tartlets. We're all getting hungry just thinking about it. Don't think about it any longer. Just go to omahasteaks.com. Use our promo code 755REAL. When you enter that code, you'll get hooked up with the Dads Want Steak package and also 8 free Omaha Steak burgers. These Omaha Steak burgers are bigger and better than ever. A whopping 6 ounces each. You're going to need multiple grills to cook all of them. Whopping. Make sure you check it out.
Big burger.
It's a huge burger, and you could use it to celebrate another Celtics win. It's coming.
Go Celts, go C's. It's happening, baby.
Up. It's happening.
My Jayhawks and my Celtics are going to be champions of the basketball world this year in the same year. I love it.
Same year. Too bad for Andrew Wiggins, but KU still got the dub. But make sure you guys check out omahasteaks.com. Use our promo code 755REAL. Take advantage of the Dad Want Steak package. Get the gift that every dad wants, the gift of steak and delicious food.
Yeah, I was just a couple more things from Walt, because I just love talking to Walt, man. But he had some really good insight last night, and he said was talking about Snit's patience, and he said, I'm sure he took a lot of that from Bobby, just being around Bobby as long as he was. He said, I took over a Rockies club that's coming off the worst season in franchise history, so there were tough days. But man, I admire Snit and how, although we've been very successful here, we've had our stretches where we struggled. I mean, it's just the nature of the game, but I've always admired how he handles these tough times. It's something I've definitely learned from him. I don't know if I'm good at it yet. I would really grind over those losses as a manager, take it home with me. Where I see Snit, he can wash it off. He clearly turns the page. When he leaves that night, you can never know if we won or lost. It's tough to do, but I think that's ideal for a manager, because a manager does wear a loss tougher than anybody else. Yeah. And I said what Swanson had said about a team taking on the personality of its manager to a degree, and he said, Weiss said he totally agreed. He said, I noticed as a player and when I managed that anytime something goes wrong on the field, all the eyes in the dugout look at the manager to see how he's going to react.
Camera pans right to him.
Yep. He said it's always that way. And Snit's great at remaining stoic in the dugout and not being reactionary or emotional whenever something, good or bad, really happens on the field. He said, I think you've got to enjoy the successes, but anytime something goes wrong on the field, every guy in the dugout looks at the manager. So the fact that he's calm and patient, I think the players feed off that. And he said that patience probably was tested last year more than anything, and his resilience. And you look at our club. I mean, our club had to get through it, and I think Snit's demeanor helped them do that. It's funny. We talked about the difference in baseball and football, because so many people are obviously football fans, and it kind of don't
ride the highs and lows.
Right.
Every game matters.
And Walt's a tough guy, man. He's like a mixed martial arts guy. Dude's got cauliflower ear at his age, because he still does all that stuff. And I told him, about that people don't understand. They look and want Snit to explode,
every loss.
Right. And he said, and he made a great point. And he said, you can't do that. He goes, it's not football. Because I always said, even as a player, in this game, you have to battle your emotions. Where in football, you have to feed off your emotion. In baseball, you have to keep your emotions in check, because it's every single day, 7, 8 months even. So that's a strength, being able to do that. And I thought that was perfectly put.
Walt made his major league debut in 1987. And he's still learning these lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, there's so much to learn mentally in baseball and to take on from somebody that's able to not ride that roller coaster. But yeah, if you treat every game like the World Series, you're burnt out by June. You have to remain even keeled. And again, I mean, that's what Snit's great at.
And you can't just read, social media or hear people calling for, people are frustrated, so they want you to show some emotion or explode. Like like a rant is going to, start a turnaround,
right?
Like people aren't going to see through that. Your players are going to see through that and see it as a sign of weakness. They're not going to go there. He's it. Yeah, if there's a reason to go out, if somebody throws at Acuna again, like he could go on the field like he did the one time against the Marlins when it's clear they were throwing at him. But you don't just do it for nothing. You know, when they threw at Charlie Culberson in D.C. that year, Snip got thrown out of the game for one of the few times ever because he knew it was purposeful and they hit him in the face.
Yeah.
But you can't just explode every time, you know, Acuna gets hit in the elbow. I mean, people are going to see through that and they can see it as desperation or you know, on a missed call. When they're not going to change the call anyway, you're just going to get ejected. That's not going to spark your team. So
no.
Anyway, by the way, I went and asked after we had our last podcast, I went and asked Michael Harris about Andrew being in the crowd and the cameras catching him going, wow, on that catch. He said, and he had seen it by then. And he said, that was actually cool because he's a defensive wizard. So to impress someone like that, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
He's enjoying it, man. The kid's enjoying this stuff while not getting caught up in it at all. I mean, he's like so mellow. Jesus. Go talk to the guy. And he's just like, you never know he's there.
I mean, that's what you're always looking for. You know, when you see that rookie get called up and they got that deer in the headlights look just talking to the media, you know, it's like when those lights come on, it's gonna be hard for you, buddy. But the guys that are calm and act like they belong, but don't, you know, they don't have to go prove anything. They can just play. I always feel good about those players. So
they got 3 more against the Pirates, who are a lot better team than the Oakland A's, but not a good team. But the Oakland A's, boy, oh my God, Eric, that's tragic. I feel bad for Kotze having to manage that team because they got no hope. Not this year. They're terrible.
I feel good for Bob Melvin.
Yeah, they are terrible. Yep. Man, he timed that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Wow, he saw that coming.
Well, they did that. You know, that's another tough thing about trying to build a winning culture or whatever. You know, in 2014, we traded Josh Donaldson, Jeff Samardzija. You know, we had a good team. We went to the playoffs and they just blew it up. We got to spring training in 2015 and it was just, I'm looking around the clubhouse like we were in the playoffs last year. How are we going to, and there's nothing better than playing for something bigger than yourself. You know, the teams that are just punching the clock. I remember Chris Johnson saying that about the Astros when they were doing their rebuild. He got traded over to us. You just had 25 guys punching the clock, and it's just misery, and it's a long season. But when you're chasing something as a unit, everybody plays better. You know, it'd be a tough. The guys that Oakland is really good for are guys like Pache because he's going to get to play and figure out the big leagues, and that's part of why Oakland always has so many prospects that come up and do well because they get to come up and play without pressure and be about themselves. But when you've gone through the grind of a major league season 5, 6, 7 times and you're out of it April 25th, it's a long year. And you can just see the way the teams play that they're not really chasing anything. And it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah. I just talking to Kotze, man, he impressed me. He's really come a long way with handling the media and all that. And his answers were great, talking about Pache, talking about vote being brought up that day and all that, and how they need the leadership vote provides. And just had a lot of good answers. And he didn't seem at all down from how they're playing, even though he knows it's, they've been terrible.
Well, but I'd be realistic about it too.
Right. And I'm sure they've told him that. I just hope that he's able to get to parlay this into a better managerial or be kept there until they get good. It's going to be a while.
Until they get good. Yeah.
But you hate to be a manager and start he could be a good manager and start his career 120 and 200, if he's there 2 years.
Well, Snit went through that. Snit came up into not the best Braves team.
Right. But at least they were towards the middle of the rebuild, but
not the beginning.
They had some good players still.
Yeah.
Man, Oakland traded almost everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, Braves got one of them. Manea's over in San Diego.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They cast him Chapman. They got rid of everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was rough. You could see all the people were putting great captions on the photos I posted of Olsen hugging all his teammates. People putting great captions on it like, man, what's it like to play in front of fans?
Well, that's another thing that's really hard too is you feed off that home crowd playing in front of 3,000 a night.
Right. And they come here and they play the Braves on Tuesday and Wednesday against the Oakland A's, and the crowds were like 35 to 39,000.
They've been packing Truist.
They've had some giveaways, but that they're not every night. That's what promotions are supposed to be for. But everybody has promotions. The Braves they've had 13 sellouts already.
Yeah.
I mean, for a Thursday night game against the Pirates last night with no promotional giveaway, they had 39,000. those are the kind of games that used to draw 14 at the end at Turner Field. Yeah. So they're third in the majors in home attendance.
Yeah,
behind the Dodgers and Cardinals, two teams that always draw huge crowds.
Well, the Dodgers have 60,000 seats too. Yeah,
ahead of the Yankees. They're ahead of the Yankees, who are having the best season they've had in forever in a metro area. They're ahead of the Yankees. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
It looks like, just watching on TV, it looks like that it's fans showing up. You know, I mean, we used to go to games in San Diego, and it felt like people that were just walking by and decided to see a ball game.
Right, hang out outside in the beautiful weather.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to do. But it seems like these Braves games, like it seems like the crowds are legit.
Yeah, they're into
Braves fans. It feels like an atmosphere and a good energy in there.
It's like an energy infusion over recent years. You know, the last couple of years, really since they moved to Truist, it's gotten better and better and better because they've had good teams. They won a division 4 straight years, and now they're defending World Series champs. But the crowds have really been surpassed what I expected. I mean, I knew they'd be good this year after winning the World Series, but every night, regardless of who the opponent is, they've built a pretty good atmosphere out there for sure. With the battery and being able to watch. Yeah, and people can come now hours early and hang out, you know, where they couldn't do that at Turner Field. So it's worked. I didn't like the move when they made it, but now I understand why they did it because it's worked.
Yep.
All right. Well, they got 3 more against the Rockies, and then they go on a road trip that starts with the Nationals, who are terrible. So, I mean, I'm not going to say the streak's going to get. I'm not going to say the streak's going to get 15 games because they're going to probably play one bad game, or opponent's going to pitch a really good game like the Pirates. The Pirates are not a terrible team. People forget the Pirates swept the Dodgers out there and won 2 out of 3 against them in Pittsburgh.
Well, they have a really good bullpen.
So
their bullpen's good.
I'm not going to be surprised at all if the Pirates win a game. I'd be kind of surprised if the Braves swept 4 from them, even as well as the Braves are playing. But they have a stretch now with 4 coming up against the Nationals, 3 more against the Pirates. You know, that's 7 more games. They've won 8 in a row. They could easily have a 14-1 stretch, if not 15-0, but they could have a 14-1 stretch before you go play the Cubs. 4 games against the Cubs, or 3 games against the Cubs, 3-day games against the Cubs. That's a little bit of a challenge, 3-day games against the Cubs, but
that is not fun, but it's nice at night. But these are the stretches that get you hot. You know, I mean, when you're grinding against good teams and the good teams can make you pay for every mistake, it's tough to get going. But I wouldn't be surprised if this stretch, if they play really good baseball throughout this stretch, that this is the type of thing that gets them hot and they keep playing good baseball. You get your confidence from it.
Yeah. Like a couple of players telling me, I forgot who told me the other day, he said, early on, it was like we want teams to say, oh man, we're playing the Braves and be worried about it. Instead, he goes, early on, I think teams were going like, oh, they're playing the Braves. We got a chance to win this series.
Yeah. They're not the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
no, if you play a team, it doesn't matter who they've played. If they've won 14 out of 15.
No doubt. Yeah.
You better pack a lunch.
And now the Mets have had a couple of injuries, so we'll see. This is a time to really take advantage of it and gain on them, because once you gain and caught, if you can get within a couple of games of the Mets, it just changes everything. Then it's all of a sudden, all right, and then you got a lot of head-to-head games against them.
Yeah, and that New York pressure is not kicking in with a 10-game lead.
Right.
But if you get it down to 3.
You want to get it down before they get Scherzer back and before they potentially get DeGrom back around the All-Star break or whatever.
Yeah. They're doing the right stuff.
All right. We'll talk again, guys. Thanks, everybody, for listening and grading us and all that. Give us good votes, whatever you do on YouTube. Give us the thumbs up. Give us a fuck yeah. All right. 7:55 is real. We'll talk again soon. Out.
All right.